Good morning. Welcome to a Map Business Online web tutorial. This is sort of a video about market analysis. Map Business Online has a market analysis tool up here on our master toolbar. So that's what I mean but when I say market analysis. We use that data tool to compare data sets, and it can help us sometimes determine some information related between those two data sets. So in this case, we have a company, Evercare, using Map Business Online. They have a list of new clients that are coming on board. I've already imported this data into Map Business Online using my plot data on map button. You can find videos and instructions in Map Business Online on how to import data. So here, if I uncheck in map and data, you'll see the blue dots disappear, and I check it back on and you'll see my data is there in those particular states. I also have my Evercare service provider locations. And again, if I turn that off and on and back on, you can see those service center locations all around the United States. Now, the client wants to make sure that their customer locations are within 20 miles, for the most part, of all Evercare service provider locations. And so Evercare called and said, how do we do this? How do we make sure that our provider locations are that close to these new clients that we've got? So I'm going to just walk through the process that I used to determine that. So we have the two data sets imported into Map Business Online using the Plot Data on Map button. I am going to focus in on states that are impacted by the clients so that we can just get rid of all those extra provider locations that aren't really pertinent to this analysis. We just want to see in these three states. I think it's three, but it could be two because it's close right there on the boundary. So to filter those down, I'm going to open the data window and I'm going to select my provider location data set. So the Evercare service providers are now in my window here, and I'm going to click the filter button. And on the left side, I've already selected everything here, but just so you can see it, I'm selecting out of that data, I'm selecting state as the option for me to filter by. And then in the modifier selection on the right side of my filtering tool, I'm going to choose one of, as opposed to contains or greater than or less than and equal to, all those modifiers that are there. The one I'm going to use is one of, and I'm just going to put in the state abbreviation. So I get Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska. Once I've got that set, I mean, I can do more. I can add more criteria if I want to. But I've dropped down to select the column of my data, and then I've selected a modifier, and then I've selected the actual targets for filtering, which is this column of my data in the background. You can see the state has got the abbreviations. And so then I filter. When I click the filter button, I filtered that data and I get 574 locations out of 3749 around the map. And I then go up to create new or existing marketing list. That's this button right here. I click it. I'm choosing all locations in the data window, which means I'll get all 574 of the locations I just filtered. And I'm going to call this Evercare Service, Centers. We're going to go Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska. That all fits so that I now know what my data is, and I'm going to have that data named such so I can see it on my map. Now, if we take your data window drop down, you'll see my Evercare Service Center list is right there. And if I pull down my data window and click the filter data on the map button, I can visualize just those service centers. So I'm not like distracted by everything else across the country. Let's close that data window view now. We can even, if we want to, I mean, this is just for visualization, we can zoom in and we can see that really it's Iowa and Nebraska that we're dealing with here. But I went into Kansas as well, so we'll just run the query as we've got it now. The next step in this process is to do that analysis. So I'm going to click my market analysis tool, and the option I'm going to choose is the second one. But what we're essentially doing is we are finding the nearest store, and in this case, the store is the provider, the black triangles, or pickup location. So you can see that as a Home Depot or a Walmart, or that just could be anything, but it means it's got customers. So for each customers, the nearest provider is that black triangle, and we're clicking this to compare that to the client list. Click next. In the top, I want to select my customer locations. So my customer locations are not the service providers, they are the Evercare new clients. So that's these blue dots. And then down below, I want to select the store or pickup locations, which in this case is my Evercare service providers, but not the top one, the bottom one. You'll see there's a little drop down. That's the filtered list. So now we've got both of those selected. We're going to choose what distance we want to analyze. 20 miles is what we wanted to do. I could change it to 30. I'm going to make it 20. And then I've got a little bit of code here where not code, but just text, so that in the data that's resulted, I can actually add that information to it, to the resulting data. I click next, and that's done. So now the filter's been, the actual market analysis has been triggered. The data window pops up with my Evercare client locations, now with an additional column in there, which shows all of the locations, and they all have a distance to the store in miles. And as you go down, you can see that some of them are pretty close. And the one on top, there's one location on top that is -1. And that is the one location on the map that is not within the 20-mile limit. It's right here. And so they'll have to accommodate that client in some way. But I think it's a pretty good fit for this particular group of clients because they can rely on Evercare to provide their clients services within a reasonable distance driving time for both the traveling Evercare providers or store locations. So that's the analysis that we have here at Map Business Online. Once you've got that data effective on Map Business Online, you can export that out, use it outside of the application. Go to mapbusinessonline.com and take our free trial. Thanks.